just do a little awkward dance till this happens. It works. Yay. Awesome.
Awkward dance, doing the awkward dance. Hi.
Well, that starts out great already. Hey everyone, super excited to be here today. And as you can see, I'm not alone. I have Megan with me. Megan is the author of the Senja. I should have asked you how to pronounce that. Dang it, I knew I forgot something before.
No worries. You can pronounce it however you like, but I pronounce it as Sanyare.
Sanyare. Oh, that sounds much better than what I would have done. Perfect. Megan is the author of the Sanyare trilogy quartet. This is the day. I'm telling you, I'm going totally off script right now. This
No
day
worries.
today, we started talking about this backstage a little bit already. I don't know, something is in the water and clearly in mine too, because I can't even think straight anymore.
All
We'll
good.
just,
It's all good.
you know what? I'll leave it to you. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Let's do it. Okay. So yeah, I'm Megan Haskell. I pen tales of myth, magic, and mayhem featuring kick-ass heroines and monsters of every size. And so yes, I've written, so my complete series is the Sanyare Chronicles, which is actually 5 books in that series. So whatever you call a 5-book series. And I never know if I'm supposed to call it a quintet or a something else, but anyway.
5-book series.
5-book series. So yeah, there's 4 main novels plus a shorter, I call it book 3.5 novella that's between books 3 and 4. It's 3 point.
I'm glad it's not just me.
It is not just you. But yeah, so that's my completed series. I have also written and that's action adventure fantasy. With the lovely lady in red, and then the new cover is this one here. I'm pointing at, which you also have on.
We are prepared here. Yeah. There.
Yeah, so that's the new cover for the first book in the series, The Last Descendant, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. So yeah, action adventure fantasy. Quest. She's a human raised by elves in the High Court of Fairy, and she's framed for treason, and she has to flee for her life, kind of a thing. Lots of fun. Carnivorous pixie sidekicks. Very cool. And then I have a contemporary fantasy, which is Aetherbound, which is this one, and you have it right there. And 2 books in that series so far. The third one is in process. It's partially drafted. And then the series that I'm currently working on is Forged in Shadow, that one right there. So I'm working on the 2nd book in that one right now. And that is an epic fantasy, sort of a history of the world of the Sanyare Chronicles. So those 2 series are related, but totally standalone, but related. So there's Easter eggs and lots of fun stuff there too. So That's what I do. That's what I write.
Nice. I love the myth, magic, and mayhem, like your tagline for everything. Like, where did that come from? How did you come up with that?
So, amongst other things, over the last 10 years, I have taught classes for writers. And so through that, I was actually co-teaching with my friend Greta Boris. And one of the classes we taught was how to create a mission statement for your author career. Because we noticed that for ourselves as well. But for a lot of people, like, it's hard to say what you write, like, especially when you're put on the spot very quickly and you have that, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds to kind of get the message across before people glaze over and go, oh, okay, bye. You don't want that, right? You need to be engaging and entertaining. So we actually created a course on how to create your author mission statements and boil that down into a tagline. So I went through the process myself, but it starts out with things like, what do you like to read? What are the themes in your writing? What are the tropes and elements that are, consistently recurring in your writing? And then how do you boil that down into something that you can easily spin off the tongue whenever asked? And I do that a lot.
Well, yeah, because you're selling at cons, right? You're out and about everywhere, so you constantly have to pitch your books.
Yes.
Anyway,
which is great practice for any authors out there. Like, go do a live event or two, even if it's uncomfortable, because getting that like instant feedback interaction, you can practice all those lines and all those pitches, and then it applies to your online marketing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's doing live events has been kind of a game changer for me, to be honest.
All right. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit because I think that is actually quite fascinating because I love indie books, generally speaking. And usually I found them through, scrolling on Amazon, listening to booktubers, watching
Mhm.
Bookstagram. And
Mhm.
the one thing that I found that was not talked about very often is conventions because I love
Mhm.
to go to WonderCon where we met, right?
Yeah.
Or like LA Book Festival or all of these cool things. And what I realized is the authors you find at those places at cons festivals are very different than the one that you find usually on Book Talk, BookTube, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But
Mhm.
you are a little bit across both, right? You do both a little bit.
I do. I'm not going to say I'm very good at the online social media marketing. I try. I mean, I definitely have a presence. Particularly, I personally like Instagram as the main place, but I'm not very consistent about it. So I'm not the person to ask about online marketing. But that being said, yeah, the hardest part, quite honestly, so like I think there are two kinds of creative people. And I actually had a very good friend who I was talking with this about, and he's a comedian and a bartender and a YouTuber, and of course I'm an author, and he's a screenwriter as well. And of course I'm an author and all this stuff, and there are two kinds of creative people. There's the creative people who are creative in the marketing, and so they write a book, but then they're great at marketing it. And then
Yeah.
there's the people that are really good at writing the book, but maybe not so great at marketing it. And so those are skill sets that you have to learn and practice, just like anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, live conventions, I mean, I am, believe it or not, an introvert. But I
I would
do.
have not believed that if you would have told me that because I know how outgoing you are at shows. So
Oh yeah, and then I come home and I crash
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm what I like. I call myself an extroverted introvert. Like I recharge by being quiet, alone by myself, which is I think why writing is a good career choice for me. Um, but I do have the ability to sell. I've had jobs in sales. I've had
Yeah.
jobs in how to give public presentations. I've taught things like that. So for me, it's a really good combination of skills. But I know for a lot of authors that are more introverted than I am, the idea of doing a live event is the most terrifying thing in the world. And I
Yeah.
get it. But I think that's where you get sort of these different marketing styles. Because you also get, in addition to the, TikTok, Bookstagram authors who just, nail it, knock it out of the park on social media, or the people who do conventions like I do, you also get the authors who are just very quietly going about their business, and they churn out book after book after book, and they manage to have still, they find their audience, and I actually don't, I think it's magic. I'm not sure how they do it exactly. But they find their niche, and they get in there and they nail it. So everybody has to find their own path
Yeah.
to success and whatever that means for them. But live events for me, yeah, I mean, you have to have that sales potential. You have to have the ability to talk.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, I know how to talk, and I can keep talking until you tell me to shut up. Um, which is actually also a skill that I have to learn sometimes. When people come up to the booth, I have to be like, okay, I can pitch you my book, or I can just let you read the back. Which would you prefer?
Yeah, I find
You
it
gotta learn how to
fascinating.
read people.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually saying that with you have to be a little bit of a salesperson. I mean, that's narrowed down. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And I've seen, so no matter which book festival I've been on or con I've been on, I've seen the people that have like their booth and it looks pretty and they have the books out, but then they're sitting on their phone,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, are you expecting me to now, like listen?
Yeah.
You have to come out of it. And I actually had someone on the last WonderCon this March that basically jumped at me and was like, "Can I pitch your book?" And I'm not someone who says no, go away, right? I was like,
Yeah.
I really don't want to, but okay. And then I ended up buying something from him because what he actually pitched me sounded really cool. So, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't have bought it if he would have just sat there
Yeah.
on his booth. And I would, because walking by, I was like, this is not really my thing.
Mhm.
But I mean, he literally jumped out of his booth and in my way is like, hey, let me pitch you my book. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a balance to that, from a sales perspective, like being able to kind of try to the best of your ability. And I know this sounds like we're not supposed to talk about this, but you have to kind of judge people a little bit and sort of guess what kind of interaction they want
Yeah.
as an author. So one
Yeah.
of the things, especially at some place like WonderCon, right, where not everybody there is there for books.
Yeah.
Most people there are not there for books.
Fair.
Right?
Yes.
I'm kind of a surprise usually for them. So one of the first things I do, like if people are just walking by with, their heads down like this, I'm not going to talk to them because they're in a zone. They're either on their way somewhere or they're doing the side eye look until they find something that they want to look at, but they don't want to make contact. They're not looking for interaction. Totally fine. Get it. Great. Then there are people that kind of wander around and they look, and if you can make eye contact with them, I go, hey, are you a fantasy reader?
Yeah.
And if sometimes they'll be like, no, and they'll keep walking, and that's fine. And then I know they're not my audience. And sometimes like, yeah, sometimes. And sometimes in that case, I can be like, well, I write about carnivorous pixies, and I can draw them into my table.
Yeah.
And then there are the people that just immediately come over, and then it's really easy to say, well, let me tell you about my books. And I have a process that I go through for the books and how I pitch each series and so forth.
Yeah.
So, it is a skill like anything else, right? It's something that you have to practice doing. But I do think that ability to gauge your audience, understand your audience, try out different taglines, try out different pitches, what trope is gonna, and sometimes again, you have to judge people and you guess what's gonna grab their attention. And sometimes you're surprised and sometimes you're really not, but you kind of just see what works. But it is an iterative process and it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then it's multiple days that you have to be energetic then too.
Yeah. Well, for WonderCon at least, yes.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So
WonderCon.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say WonderCon's what, 3 days?
I believe
LA
so,
Times
right?
Festival
Friday till
books.
Sunday.
Yeah. And I usually go and set up Thursday night. Not that I have to like interact with people too much, but
ugh, neighbor.
People. Actually, no, the woman I booth next to at WonderCon, Nicolette Andrews, we're actually really good friends, so it works out great.
She's amazing too. Just FYI on a side note.
Side note, go check out Nicolette Andrews. She's amazing. And we do a lot of shows together and stuff now too. But yeah, so that's 3 days really of like sales interaction. LA Times is 2. But most book fairs and events that I do are 1 day now. Like, well, I shouldn't say that. It's about 50-50, I guess, because I do like I'm doing Love and Devotion in June.
June, right? Isn't it like 12th, 13th or something? That weekend somehow.
It's June. No, it's June 21st is I think.
It's in June. Let's just mid-June.
Yeah.
Mid-June.
Love and Devotion in Burbank. It's mid to end of June. I want to say it's like the 21st is the signing day. But it's a 2-day con, but like only 1 day is actually signing and selling. So, I can kind of just relax on the other day and just be there. But the sales piece, and it's only like 3 hours even too. They have two signings for 2 different groups of authors. And so if you're interested in going, it's romance focused. But if you're interested in going, you can get your tickets somewhere. Google it. We'll give you the link.
Yeah. If you Google Love and Devotion, it comes right up. Yeah.
And then, but they have 2 different signings. So just be aware of that. There's a morning signing and an afternoon signing. And I don't know which one I'm going to be in yet. I don't think they've released the schedule or whatever, or placements. But it is like the signing day is a thing. It's a thing. Yeah. Well, but anyways, I'm doing that one. And then I'm doing, Enchanted Realms, which is a new book fair, fantasy book fair at the Autry Museum in the fall. I think it's October 12th or something like that.
Okay. So are your festivals then focused on like Los Angeles area or South California area, or are you going somewhere else too?
Yeah, I stick to Southern California for the most part. I did do the Rave book fair in the last November in Vegas, but that was because I was already there for an author conference.
Okay.
So generally I don't travel, mostly because of cost. It's a big expense to do some of these events. You not only you have to pay for the table, but then if you're also paying for travel and airfare and
shipping of the
hotels
books
and food and all that stuff,
yeah,
you end up not making any money.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's a hard prospect for me. So I stick to Southern California.
Awesome. I'm fine with that. I mean, that's, for me personally, not that I'm paying your bills. All right. So carnivorous pixies, that is something that I definitely want to piggyback off of, because that was the thing when I started reading your book, where I was like, what is happening here? So it starts pretty, normal. You follow your female heroine, and she travels along, and all of a sudden you see the pixies, how they're biting a piece of, was it neck, out of a person, and it's a pretty graphic. And that was the moment where it's like, she has like a grimdark gene in her, just a little bit. I was not expecting that, but I was sitting there like, all right, that's how we're rolling. Okay.
Yes. So it's funny because what my favorite 1-star review is yuck.
I mean,
just yuck. There's no other explanation. Just yuck. So I like gory action adventure Marvel style violence. When my heroine was very much inspired by Buffy and I'm trying to think of good other fandoms, but if Laurel K. Hamilton, her Anita Blake series in the early days was those were very much my inspirations and my early influences. So I do like a little violence, a little gore, a little shock to the system now and then. But I will say this, the difference I think between what I write versus true grimdark is that I actually can't read grimdark, true grimdark, because I have to have hope. I have to know who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. And I have to know that the good guy is going to win. And there has to be that element of goodness to the story. So I don't write trauma in a realistic sense. I write fantasy violence. At least that's the way I try to
justify
frame
yourself.
it. That's how I see it for myself. So if you can't handle some violence and a little bit of darkness and a little bit of gore in your story, you're probably not going to like my books. I don't write cozy. I don't write true cozy. My contemporary has some cozy elements because she's a bartender, but there's still elements of death. There's still elements of darkness. There's still elements of betrayal. That's what I like to play with. But there's always hope and there's always goodness too.
And just a little bit of banter too.
Yes.
I love that. So that's what I actually really like. So I read the first book in the series. I'm very much excited for continuing reading the rest and seeing how it continues. But what I loved about it is that you can't really put your book in a box. It doesn't fit this one subgenre. It is not a fantasy romance. It is not a dark fantasy. It is not an epic fantasy. It's not a cozy fantasy. It's a really good mix of all of that. And not just
really
that,
hard to sell, just so you know.
I know. But as a reader, I love that because it makes it so unique, right? It's not the same thing just regurgitated. It's something very unique, which I find interesting. And you also added a lot of different, diverse characters. I hate the word racist. So, but you have bloodsids, which are vampires essentially, right? You have the pixies, you have the fays, you have, I'm forgetting what the little guy is in the dress shop. Imp. Yes. You have a huge variety.
Yeah, and they're all inspired by real things. This is like my myth, magic, and the myth part of it, right?
Yeah,
it's all inspired by real myth. So yes, sorry.
Yeah. No. That's. But that's what I love about it, right? And then has like epic elements in it too, because you have a lot of world building already in book one. There's a lot of history to the characters already. And then behind the scenes, we started talking also about your prequel series. So maybe you want to tell a little bit about like the development there,
Yeah.
main series, genres, where you're
Yeah.
going journey wise, and then the follow up series. I guess I know you said we can read them as standalone, but
Yeah.
follow up series.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is both the challenge of my books, that they are not easily pigeonholed into a single subgenre. And that does make it difficult for people to sometimes latch on to them or to share them, or like they just don't quite know necessarily what this really is. But that was kind of the point. It was kind of this idea of, when I started it, this was my debut. The Last Descendant was my debut novel. And when I started writing, it was because I wanted to read something that I couldn't find. I wanted all these elements brought together, and I wanted to learn more about the actual myths and legends that underlied, whatever the correct past tense
I'm
is
not
of
English
that.
native, whatever.
But I wanted to know what the real stories were that influenced modern day fantasy. So I went and I actually looked up this stuff. So all the creatures in my books are based on some kind of cultural mythological creature. And I also really enjoy bringing together different cultures and asking the what if question of, what if there were multiple, like the Norse 9 realms. It's loosely based on the Norse 9 realms. What if this was a real thing? How would those cultures influence and interact with each other? How would that have affected, modern day human society? Where would these creatures have come from? Could there be a kernel of truth? Maybe not the whole truth, but the kernel of truth in these stories and in these creatures that has been carried through now to our human society. So that's kind of where it all started. And so I really enjoy the world building. I really enjoy asking all of those questions and finding the answers in my own head. And then it became, I had this character. And so with the Sanyare Chronicles, I knew who she was basically from day one. I asked all the what if questions, how she got to where she was, how she became who she was, what was all the background there, what was this world that she lived in, and why would the king threaten to execute her just for being in contact with this enemy realm? Like, why? What is the background of that?
Yeah.
And so all of that world building I did in my head before I started writing, but I had this character, and so I just sat in her perspective and sort of followed her journey. And that's how I wrote the story. And that's part of the reason why it's not easily pigeonholed, is because I just followed where my interests lay, rather than being like, okay, what tropes can I incorporate into this book? What's going to sell? How are readers going to interpret or accept this? How am I going to market this? I had no concept of marketing. I was just writing. And so that's my artistic side. And I still, even now, I'm like I said, working on Quenched in Secrets, which is the second book in the epic fantasy. And that's going to be fiction book number 9 for me, I think. Well, 10 if you include my short story anthologies. And I've written several short stories too. So anyway, even now, like, that's my artistic side. I follow the art for me, and then I try to sell it after the fact, which is not always the best business plan, just so you know.
Yeah, no, fair. Yeah. Is that then also why you decided to go indie published versus trying to be trade published?
So yes and no. I actually have an undergraduate business degree from USC. So I was working a corporate job as first a forensic accountant and then a carbon emissions accountant at one of the big accounting firms downtown. I know, big number nerd, spreadsheet nerd. Actually, I'm not really a number nerd. I'm a spreadsheet nerd. I like spreadsheets.
Let's geek out about Excel later. I love spreadsheets.
Excellent. Yes. And so this was like I said, writing was my creative outlet. But when I decided it was ready to be pitched or published. This was right just after Kindle had come out. So this was, I started writing in 2012. So Kindle had just come out. And then by the time I was ready to publish, it was, approaching 2015. Is that right? Yes. Yes, that's right.
Your debut novel is 10 years old now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is
Congratulations.
why
That
I
is
did the special part of the reason
exciting.
why I did the special edition. It was the sort of the 10-year anniversary,
Yeah.
collector's edition kind of a thing. Yeah, 10 years.
My
Which is
goodness.
crazy to think about. Anyway, it means my daughter is 13. Anyway,
Yee.
I mark all time based on my daughter's births. But anyway, what was I saying? I forget what I was saying now. I lost track.
You started writing, and then that was right when Kindle came
Oh
out,
yeah,
10
yeah.
to 15. Yep.
So I decided that I've been following Lindsay Baroker in particular, and learning more about Kindle and the fact that people were making money publishing, self-publishing or indie publishing was becoming less of a stigma, and people were really making, good businesses out of indie publishing. And so I decided not even to pitch. I didn't try to get an agent. I didn't try to go the traditional publishing route. The book was my art. I didn't want to sacrifice the artistic decisions on it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to choose my own cover. I enjoy the project management of it. It fit my skill set. And now it was kind of a viable option. So I just went indie from day one. It just seemed like the natural fit for me.
Yeah. I love it. I think indie generally is great. Like the reason why I love reading, and I've said that multiple times before, but the reason why I love indie is because you get books that are just them, right? It's the author expressing themselves, and there's no like, what's the word for that? Like, nothing is cut out, nothing is cut back, nothing has been changed. It's really truly what the author wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many creative works out there, so many amazing stories that are being told on indie. That, not saying trade publish is bad, right? Not at all. They are great stories even in trade publish, but specifically when it comes to indie, that's what I love. It's like the authentic author's work, imagination, creativity, diversity. Like, it's I think it's great. So it fits.
Yeah, I think so. I enjoy both for sure. And people do complain about the quality of indie books sometimes, but I always think that the cream rises to the surface.
Yeah.
So you're going to find the diamonds in the rough. And half the time nowadays, you won't even know if it's indie or trad when it comes to the quality of the book.
Very true.
So indie is now very much a business savvy, or can be a business savvy persona, and someone who is just, doing the work and truly running their own business, which I think is absolutely amazing and inspirational, to be a solopreneur, be able to control your own life and make money doing it. Like, that's kind of the dream.
Yeah. You did the same with Kickstarter too, right? Like, your Aetherbound books were Kickstarters, your special editions were both run through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So you did that too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Kickstarter, I've been doing Kickstarter now for a couple years. And I've done technically 4 projects. One was nonfiction. And then I did Aether Crossed as kind of a testing the water, just a basic paperback because I already knew how to make the paperback, right? So I figured this would be adding in the new skill set of doing the Kickstarter and marketing it there. So it was just a paperback, but I did run a Kickstarter for that. And then I did the special paperback,
right? Where did I put them? I had them. Dang it. You also included like little giveaways with that. Because you already said, right?
I had swag with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely had swag with it.
Yeah.
But the book itself was something I already knew how to produce. Whereas doing the special edition was a whole nother new production line skill set, because I had to do a print run. I had to do, artwork that I had never had to do before, that kind of a thing. So I've done the 2 special editions. So The Last Descendant, which is out and available. You can get it on the website. You're going to show it off for me.
Of course. Look at this gorgeous piece.
Yeah. It came out so good. And then the Heir Apparent funded on Kickstarter in April. And so I'm actually hopefully by the end of this week. I know. And I did all the interior art myself on that too, by the way. I don't know if I told
That
you that.
would have been one of the other questions too, because I'm always curious, like where the art comes from and whatnot. I love this. Like, it fits so well too.
Yeah.
Also shiny. I don't know how well that picks up on the camera, but it's so shiny.
It's coming up pretty well. Yeah.
Oh no, now I have fingerprints on it.
But yeah, so the Heir Apparent, actually by the end of this week, the order should be into the printer. I'm in the final like little detailed negotiations with the printer, but I'm hoping that actually I'm going to pay the deposit, get that order in, they'll go into production. Well, by the end of this week, but really next week. And then, and so that should ship out, barring any weird complications, shipping issues, whatever. That should be, I should get those hopefully by like July and then, or August, and then be able to immediately turn them around and start shipping them out to people in September is the goal.
Nice.
So yeah, and that one, so I kept the same coordination or the same kind of theme. It's blue foil instead of purple, and it features, actually here, I'll show you. This is my, my little pixie Hinto. So nice. Each book is going to have a different pixie.
Yay.
And yeah, and I did the pixies myself. I did all the interior layout myself. I did hire a cover illustrator for the dust jacket. And so in the second one, she is riding Tarant, who is a Longma, and a Longma is the Chinese mythological creature that's a sort of a dragon horse. So it's like part horse, part dragon, and it flies.
That was very cool. Meeting them in book one already. That was very impressive.
Yeah, so he's a lot of fun. And I had a lot of requests from readers asking for like some kind of artwork that represented him, or, an image of him. And so we finally did it. And the artist is I'm going to butcher his name, and I'm so sorry because I do this every time I do an interview. I need to learn how to actually pronounce his name, but I think it's Uwe Jarling. It's UWE-JARLING.
Okay.
So yeah, but he's absolutely amazing and just did a wonderful job. And then he helped me do the knife on the end page. And so we did that kind of together, but yeah,
this one, right
there you go. So yeah, I mean, it's a passion project for sure. And, a lot of love went into these books, but I'm thrilled with how they came out.
Yeah. And you did that all again by yourself, right? Because with Kickstarter, sometimes I see companies like Merit Books or what's the other one called? Wraithmarked.
Yeah, Wraithmarked.
Yeah, so that they run that, but you did that on your own. Like
I did it on my own. I know both those guys. They're wonderful guys. They're wonderful companies. Like I'm personally friends with them. But I'm too type A. Is really what it came down to. I wanted control, and I wanted to be able to do everything my way and learn the whole process. I don't like handing things. I'm bad at delegating. I'm really bad at delegating.
I understand. I understand. But it went well. I mean, all of them, even your initial paperbacks for Aetherbound. Yeah, no, I'm saying this right. Aetherbound. And also for the 2 special editions, they went very well for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I'll say this. They more than met my expectations. I more than funded on all of them. It was a close thing with The Last Descendant, quite honestly, but we got there, and that was great. And so, I've been very happy with them. I haven't knocked it out of the park. You see some of these Kickstarters where they're making, $100,000, $200,000 on a special edition book, and I'm going, oh my God. But it is what it is. It's partially the audience that you bring to the table. It's partially, the algorithm, whether or not you hit the market at the right time, and all these other things too. So I have been very, very happy. But I did not like completely knock it out of the park either. Full, but I was very I'm more than funded. I more than made my money, and now I can sell the books at live events too, and
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that. So it gave me inventory,
Yeah.
and as well as a little profit too. So it's a Kickstarter's been a great business opportunity for authors, a great way to reach new audiences and new readers in a different way versus just putting your ebook up on Amazon or whatever.
It seems to be new too, right? I feel Kickstarter has been around for a while, but maybe it was the whole Brandon Sanderson thing, like his special projects, right? That really kicked it off. But I've seen so many more Kickstarter projects since then.
Yeah.
Find it very fascinating.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were definitely Kickstarters before Brandon Sanderson did his, for sure. And there were some that did very, very well, $100,000, $200,000 projects for sure. But yeah, now he blew it out of the water and like drew all the attention to it. And so, yeah, now there's a much bigger market, which also comes with drawbacks too, because now there's more competition, right? Like it used to be that there weren't that many books on there. So there was like this nice balance for a little while where people were, every project seem to do very, very well because there were only so many projects, and people that were looking for books would find those projects, now there's more competition. So you have to be a little bit more polished. You have to be a little bit more professional, but I think you got to be up for that challenge in an emerging market and a maturing market. So
yeah. I'm happy
I
though
like
that
it. I think what we're getting out of it is much better.
Yeah. And I think it, it helps in so many aspects just in the general book industry too, right? It gets people excited about books again. It draws new audiences in. It shows like just that there's still something new for such an historical medium. That sounds super funky, but you know what I mean? Like that there's still something new outside of just Amazon where you can work with your book and do something different with it, right? That's what I find very fascinating about it too.
Well, and the other thing that I think that Kickstarter's strength for authors is that it draws attention to the author behind the book as well.
That's true.
So like Kickstarter backers, one of the things that I've really appreciated is that they are as interested in supporting you as the creator and your work and saying, hey, what you're doing is valuable. What you're doing is great. I really enjoy it versus, and it's just two different, no shade, right? It's two different markets. But then if you just are in Kindle Unlimited and you're targeting that audience, those readers are just wanting to read as much and as fast and as quickly as possible to get the most value for their Kindle Unlimited money. And totally get it. It's two different models, but the Kickstarter model is one where you can say, the readers can say, I appreciate you as a creator, not just the words on the page, not just the, hours of entertainment that I get from your books, which is fabulous, but I want to support you and be behind that. And I personally have found so much value from that. So again, same thing with live events. I think that's why the two I really like so much, because I personally need or like that level of validation where I can actually see someone's eyes or get a message from someone and saying, how excited they are to read the book, or when I say the right thing that just sparks their interest, like that's so cool. But you don't get that from straight publishing to Amazon or whatever. It's a different interest, different model. But I think that's the strength of Kickstarter for sure.
Yeah. And also marketing very different, right? Like, I mean, Kindle Unlimited or Kindle generally is so crowded. I, as a reader, barely find anything, right? Because I'm one of those people. I love to go into the bookstore. I love to go on a website and just scroll through and start clicking and going down rabbit holes and like, oh, this cover looks nice. Oh, this description sounds great. And then going down that rabbit hole. And I find that extremely difficult on Amazon's website. And it has gotten more and more difficult over the years because it's, algorithm. Like it's the same thing, right? You only see what sells on the top, and that's not necessarily the stuff that I'm interested in or I've already read it, right? Because it is a popular thing. But I remember when I first started getting into the indie published and when it was more Kindle still, like it's a couple of years ago, I was able to found like the most weird things, and some were fantastic. Like one of the books is still one of my absolute favorite that I found back then. And I read the whole series now, and I'm also in contact with the author and stuff like that, right? But I feel that's why I find Kickstarter nowadays so interesting, and that's why I love going to those events. Exactly what you're saying, right? You find authors and you find books and stories that you wouldn't find otherwise.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the traditional way is just not, unless you go viral, whatever that means nowadays. And I work in marketing, I still have no clue. Like it's really hard, I find too. I imagine it's really hard for authors to get on there. So having this other outlet now, having something like a Kickstarter, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can.
I think it's a different market. It's a different opportunity, but it definitely gives a new opportunity for authors and for books who might not otherwise um, get visibility on Amazon. I mean, and Amazon, it's interesting too because it's a maturing market, right? Like when it first started, it was the same thing. You could just put your book up there and it would get noticed because it was new.
Yeah.
And there's still some of that, but it very, very quickly gets buried unless you're paying for ads. And so a
Mhm.
lot of times when you're searching on Amazon, the thing that drives me nuts now is that I'm not getting recommendations really based on what I like or what I read or what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but rather what is being advertised
Yeah.
to me. And so what the, other authors, and because I know this as an author, right? Like I know how it works, right? They say, "Ooh, my book is kind of sort of like that one, so I'm going to advertise to that book or I'm going to advertise to that
Yep.
author or that genre or whatever." And so you get a lot of books that really don't fit
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah.
There's benefits to not being curated, but also when you get as many books as there are on Amazon now, it tends to drown out
Yeah.
anything, that's different.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I again, just a different
Yeah.
target audience, different
Yeah.
market to try and hit. And I sell on Amazon. I still make a lot of money on Amazon, so I'm not gonna totally
No, no, no,
back
no,
away
no.
from it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but I've also made the choice to be wide, to go to all the different booksellers rather than just Amazon and being Kindle Unlimited,
Yeah.
for that reason, because
And
my
at
books
the
are
end of the day, yeah, I think everybody just has to make their own decision, right?
yeah,
We're drawing a full circle now, right? Everybody
yep,
has like their own strengths. Everybody has their own way of going about things, and that's while you always find something new, no matter where you then go. As then the reader, you always find new things, which is exciting.
yep, yep.
Especially if you already have too many books on your shelf, finding even more new books. Why not?
Never ending supply. You got to stock up.
Exactly. Awesome. One book that we haven't really just a little bit talked about is Aetherbound, actually. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story and what that is about?
Yeah. So, COVID really affected my creativity. And so during COVID, I needed a drink. And so I wrote myself a bartender. And so she has the ability to see, interact with, and travel to the realm of the gods. So it's very heavily mythology based, taking the actual myths, like not just inspiration from the myths, but actually taking those characters. So Hecate is her mentor character, and I have in the first book, she has to rescue her brother from Aegir, who's the Norse god of the ocean, and his underwater underworld, which he is the best mead maker of all the gods. And so
Of
he
course.
hosts this
Of course.
never ending party for the souls of the drowned, and so again, dark little, there are some dark elements to this story. But yeah, and so it's a lot of fun. So this was kind of my mental break. I had written Forged in Shadow. So we never fully got onto this. This is the
Oh, yeah.
prequel. This is a
It's one of those days.
I like tangents as well.
Yeah.
But so Forged in Shadow is the first in what will be at least a trilogy. And it's sort of the history of the world of the Sanyare Chronicles. So like I said, I love the world building, and I had all this stuff in my head. And there are characters, because they're elves and they essentially live forever, that cross over between these two stories. But it's 3,000 years prior, and like I said, it's kind of the history of the world, the treaty, how the treaty was formed that sort of sets off all the adventures in the Sanyare Chronicles. But I published Forged in Shadow in April of 2020. So Yeah, it it was a reader's favorite, book award, honorable mention, which is why I've got the green sticker on there.
Stick on a book. Mm.
And it was a, if you know Spiffbo, the
Yes,
self-published fantasy blog off Spiffbo. It was a
sure. Yes.
Spiffbo semi-finalist in 2020 as well. So it's a good book,
Yeah.
but it just never hit because right when I launched it, everybody was giving away their free books because we were supporting the community and trying to give
Yeah.
people some entertainment when they were at home and all this stuff. And it just kind of got lost. And then there are some darker elements to this story as well. It's a little bit not grimdark in that sense, but it's just a heavier book, both
Yeah.
literally and metaphorically. It's, epic. So it's all this political intrigue and, Machiavellian sort of dynamics and, there's spies and assassins and intrigue and, romantic interests. And there's just a lot that's going on. And so it takes a lot of mental headspace.
Yeah. We
So
didn't have that in
I
2020. Yeah.
didn't have that in 2020.
Yeah.
And so I did work on the second book, which is what I'm now editing. But I never published it until now. So instead, I needed a break and I needed something that was, I thought, lighter.
Yeah.
still goes into the underworld, but deals a lot with,
I mean, in comparison, right? Lighter than the other.
yeah, it was at least lighter physically. And then I worked with my friend Scott Cushman, the one I was talking about earlier, who is like this bartender, and he's sort of a cocktail historian. He has a fabulous YouTube channel. You should totally go check it out. It's called Kush Tender, where he talks about how to make different drinks and the history of different alcohols and how these drinks were developed and how you make different ingredients. It's like this whole and he also launched it during COVID because no one should drink alone. And so it was a YouTube channel. It was an online bar where you could come have a drink with Scott. And he's a comedian and he's super funny and is really entertaining. He helped me create the menus that we were showing earlier. So that the characters, she's a bartender, right? So she's making drinks. So these drinks are actually featured in the book. And then you get the menu with the recipe, so that you can make it with the character as well and kind of drink alongside the characters. But yeah, it was my COVID project.
And then ironically, a creative idea though. That is,
yeah. It was a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Ironically though, I wrote the first two books relatively quickly for me. And then I got about 3/4 of the way through the third book and I was like, oh, I need to go back to the epic. And this is how my creative brain works.
But that's okay. Then you give the Sanyare people a little bit more on their side because they have been neglected for 3 years now. So they need a little bit, right? And then once you're done, maybe you go back to the other one.
Yeah, exactly. I totally will. I totally will. So my plan is I'm going to finish Quenched in Secrets. My goal is to get, and we were talking about this beforehand, but I keep thinking I'm almost done with the edits. I'm so close. It's like I've got like one more week, and then I go, oh shoot, there's a big plot hole that I have to fix.
The one more week was 3 weeks ago. Yep.
Yeah. So I am very close, she says, as she has been saying this for months, but hopefully I'll get Quenched in Secrets. I have the cover done, so I'm going to reveal that soon. So if you want to see be the first to see the cover, you should go follow my newsletter. And I'm going to launch that as I'm pretty sure. Yes, I'm going to do that as another Kickstarter. So I think I'll do a basic hardcover for it. So not like a super fancy special edition, but with just a laminated cover. I'll do sprayed edges because I can. Yes. And so we'll launch that on Kickstarter probably in August is my rough goal. And now I've said that out loud. You said I was going to say this out loud and you were going to pin me down.
August. We heard it here first. And I put the website and the Megan's Instagram in here as well. It should be in the description. If I haven't put it in there before, I will put it in there after the live, just in case. I think I did, but we'll see.
I see a link on the bottom of the screen.
Perfect.
Of my
Perfect. Ah,
screen.
see, I'm prepared sometimes. So go check out the website so you can sign up for the newsletter. Isn't there something, and I hope I'm not saying this wrong right now. If you sign up for the newsletter, you get one of your short stories, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, so the one that you get, I think automatically when you sign up. So I do different things for different places, and I have quite a few short stories. So the one that you get when you sign up on my website, I believe, is Broken Honor, which
That
is
sounds about right. Yeah. That
yeah.
sounds
So
familiar. Mhm.
Garamayan is Sanyare. He's the truth seeker and mediator of the 9 fairy realms, and Broken Honor is his story. So it's loosely based on the myth of Fenrir, the Wolf of Ragnarok.
Mm.
And he is the mentor character in the Sanyare Chronicles. So he's a mentor to Rie, and kind of you meet him in chapter 1. So I'm not giving away any spoilers or anything, but he's kind of this like he's an elf. He's one of the origin fae or elves that came across from their home world, sort of thing. And so he's ancient dude. But he's kind of this like surfer, beachy, hippie guy in the Sanyare Chronicles. He's just like, yes, everybody just needs to get along.
He's adorable. Yeah.
It's
He's
a lot of
fantastic.
fun to write. So Broken Honor is one of his early adventures.
All right. All
And
right.
yeah, had a lot of
Well,
fun writing that.
I can also say, like, I had a jaw-dropping moment at the end of book 1 with this character.
Mhm.
That was another one of those moments where it's like, "All right, that's how we roll. Okay, good, good."
Yeah, he's surprising. He's a lot of fun to write because he has a lot of depth and a lot of, I mean, obviously he's ancient, so he's got a lot of experience. And I had a lot of in Broken Honor, it's very revelatory for how he became who he is in the Sanyare Chronicles, as is Forged in Shadow and the new the epic fantasy, because he's featured in that as well, where he's a little bit more a little bit less hippie and a little bit more um how do I want to phrase this? He can see the future is one of his skills. He can like see all the possible futures, and he gets a little confused.
I would too. I mean, come on. Awesome. And I don't know if we talked about that at all, but the Sanyare Chronicles, like the 4.5 books, 5 books quintet, whatever we want to call it today, um, you should read that first, or can you read Forged in Shadow first?
Either way, so there's standalone. There are definitely Easter eggs. There are characters who cross over because, like I said, they're elves, essentially live forever. So it's really your choice more on stylistically. I mean, it's nice. The Sanyare Chronicles are complete, so you can read them all the way through. And so a lot of people like that. Action adventure fantasy, single point of view character for most of the series, and female protagonist. Whereas Forged in Shadow is my take on epic fantasy, so multi-point of view. It's a lot bigger stakes, more far-reaching, intra-realm conflict kind of a thing. And there are 2 main characters in Forged in Shadow. Caruthanor, who is a reluctant smith's son who would rather wield a sword rather than forge one. And then there's Lewin, who is the seamstress to the princess, and she has the ability to enchant objects. And so she becomes far more influential. And of course, there's a bit of a love interest there, and it's a slow burn, but they are, well, no spoil. They're Rie's foster parents. So they get together. Just not in the first book. So yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely slow burn romance, and that's going to take place over the course of the entire trilogy.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Aw.
be prepared for that. But it's really up to you, whatever you like. And like I said, since I'm working on the second book, you'll know that one's going to be coming out relatively soon.
August.
But they
August
do,
earlier.
yeah. Shh. But they do take me a lot longer to write. So the
Yeah.
third one will be an extended wait for a while, just because they're complicated.
The planning takes a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Before I let you go, there's
Mhm.
one other thing that I like. That's sometimes I wonder what I'm saying that sounds weird. That I like about you, huh?
I'll take it.
In your bio, if you go on your website and like the about me section in your bio, one of the first things you're saying also is you have been a reader. You've been born with a book, basically. You've been
Mhm.
born with a book in hands, and you've been a reader in your entire life. So,
Yep.
what are your favorite books that you remember out of your childhood? What has inspired you the most?
Well, okay, so there's a few different ways to answer this question. So I started reading fantasy with The Hobbit. My dad gave it to me. I think I was in fourth grade,
Oh wow!
and yeah, and so I read The
Now we know where
Hobbit,
the darkness comes from.
yeah, and then the Lord of the Rings, and then I moved into the Green Rider, and I started reading Dragon Riders of Pern,
Sorry, I
and
need to.
Mercedes Lackey,
Oh yeah.
and then I moved into Laurel K. Hamilton and the Anita Blake series, especially the early part of that series. I fell off after a while. If you know the series, I think you know why, but it gets a little heated, so to say. But the first few books in the Anita Blake series were she's a vampire hunter, zombie queen, and it's amazing. That's where a lot of the darkness comes from, I think.
It explains a lot.
Yeah,
All
it
of a
explains a
sudden.
lot for sure. And then I read Faith Hunter, Patricia Briggs, all
Yeah.
huge influences. And then most recently, like my favorite series that I have literally read every single book of, despite it's like 30 books or something now, is Nalini Singh's Psy Changeling series.
Oh, I really want to start that one. That sounds
Oh,
amazing.
it's fabulous. So it's paranormal romance, but her world building, if you like world building and you like political stakes and you like a complex background behind a very solid romance couple, right? So it's always two characters that the book is focused on. So it's traditional romance in that sense, with a happily ever after at the end. But the world building is just phenomenal because there's three different sort of races or factions. It's a Earth analog, so it feels like modern day Earth to an extent, but with magic and with these three races. And
Mhm.
so there's the
Mhm.
changelings, which is basically any animal species, but they from human to the animal species. And then there's the humans, and then there's the Psi, who are have mental powers. So, telekinesis or teleportation or, different things. So it is brilliant. Like absolute favorite series. Like I said, forever. So that's my progression on fantasy. Now, I mean, obviously I've read a lot of other stuff too. And when of course, that's always influenced. Pride and Prejudice, one of my absolutely favorite books. Read it, many, 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 many times. But if you want to go back to childhood, like I loved the Babysitter's Club. Like, so there's like, I can talk about this a lot.
Fair. Well, I have to follow up on the Green Rider though, because that
Mm.
is one of my favorite. And we had like a very short moment where I think I knew that that was one of the series that you read and liked too. Are you prepared for book 8 this year? Are you far along with the series that you are going to read book 8?
I actually have not read the series recently. So I fell off probably in right around college. I think it was, 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So I honestly can't remember how many books, but that being said, My sister actually just bought the series for my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's 13. And so I am probably going to be going back and rereading it.
Yay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a little group right now because book 8 is coming out, I believe, end of September. I mean,
Okay.
that series, right? You just said 2001 and whatnot. That series is around since 1998.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has been a while for every book to come out. So 2001 would be probably book 3 or book 4 then, I would assume. She had then a longer gap at
Yeah.
one point, and then anyway. So
Yeah.
book 8.
It was at the end of like right at that gap point, and then I just haven't come back. So because it was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let me know when you start again.
All
We,
right.
we, we need to talk. I mean, I love talking about the series all day long anyway. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I've got a vacation coming up. Maybe I'll get the box set or something and add it to my vacation reading list.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Good call.
Why not?
Good call.
Awesome. All right. So we already talked about where people can follow you, website, Instagram,
Yep.
down below in the description. So go check out Megan Haskell's book. Go follow her so you know when the next Kickstarter is coming out.
And I will
Cover
say,
reveal.
just to pitch it a little bit, I do sell everything direct. So on my website, meganhaskell.com is pretty simple, but including the special edition. And I saw all the paperbacks that I sell on my site, as well as the special editions. I hand sign them all. So if you're into the whole like extra swag, supporting the author, kind of thing, you can get all of that on my website, but also the ebooks and the audiobooks that I have available. I don't have everything in audio, but what I do have, it's all on my website.
Plus really cool t-shirts.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
did you?
I think this is my.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my new one.
That too. Before we go, anything else that you want to mention? Anything else that we forgot talking about?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
So. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Come to one of my events, come say hi. If I always give people who follow me online and stuff, I always have like an extra sticker or a bookmark or something, little freebie. So just say, hey, I saw you on YouTube. I'm like, oh, cool, here's a sticker.
If you want it or not, take it.
I don't care, just take it.
Awesome. Well, on that note,
yeah.
Megan, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for saying yes to be
course.
on my channel. That was so much fun.
Of course, I love it.
We should definitely talk once you're ready for book 2. We should definitely, cover reveal, and we should get together again and celebrate that. I think it's needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think this book is going to be really good, and I'm very excited. The cover is just gorgeous. I can't wait to start sharing it, but I'm trying to keep it secret until I can actually have a plan.
Well, great. We
Not
all want to see it now. Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Awesome. Oh, God. This is going great. I'll just roll with it now. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. If you're team replay, don't forget to leave a comment down below. If you have any questions for Megan, leave them down below in the comments as well. I will let her know, and then she can answer your questions even afterwards. And with that, have an amazing rest of your afternoon, day, weekend, and I hope I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.
Bye.